The following marketing information and discussion is provided for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as professional guidance or consultancy. You should find an agency for that. Comexis is a digital marketing agency, so feel free to hire us. But otherwise, just enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, welcome to The Buyer's Journey by Comexis, a discussion-based podcast on the ever-changing marketing landscape. I'm Matthew McGrorty, the social media content producer here at Comexis.
And I'm Josh Hines, the digital marketing coordinator here at Comexis.
So today we are talking about a new algorithm for featured snippets by Google. So typically on Fridays, we talk about the advocacy stage of the buyer's journey. We're switching it up a little, and we're talking about the consideration stage. Because at the end of the day, if you're considering something, often you are Google searching. Sometimes you're looking for information, you're looking for different things. And Google feature snippets, for those who don't know, are the little boxes that appear typically with an answer, sometimes bolded or highlighted, when you type in a search query. So for example, if I were to ask Google, what's the best way to get a stain out of a carpet? It's likely that Google's going to pop up a little box at the top of the search bar and say X cleaner or X like vinegar or whatever it is. I actually don't know what the best. Did I say a general stain or did I say like a wine stain? For some reason I'm thinking of a wine stain. Point is, they will try and give you the best answer that they can. And Google's doing that by pulling information from your websites that they have crawled. And we've talked a lot about how for search engine optimization, getting a featured snippet can be fantastic because it pushes you way to the top of whatever search query that you're looking for. However, Google has sort of confirmed this algorithm update that is meant to focus on making the information more useful and more timely. And the big issue with feature snippets, at least in the past, was they weren't always updated. Even all of the features that Google added to them, being able to compare different questions and things like that, there was no guarantee that that answer is necessarily going to be the best, most accurate, up-to-date answer. So Barry Schwartz on Search Engine Land has an example of this. For example, he searched best smartphone for product photography, and one of the first things that came up was the Apple iPhone 7 and the Samsung Galaxy S8. So we're talking about like the iPhone 7 at this point is a 3 or 4 year old phone. Mm-hmm. That obviously would not be the best phone for best smartphone for product photography when we have, the specs of the Apple iPhone 10 or X. Are they calling it 10 or the X?
It's the X.
It's the X, okay. Or whatever, or when Apple comes out with their next phone later this year, like I'm sure that's probably going to have a better sensor than the 7, right? So things like that are just completely out of date. They're fantastic for your site, but they're out of date. So Google has announced that as part of their ongoing efforts to make search work better, a new algorithm update will improve their system's understanding of what information remains useful over time and what becomes out of date more quickly. This is particularly helpful for their featured snippets. So this is happening in general, but in particular for featured snippets. And the whole point here is to make sure that the information is fresh and important, useful, and up to date. So Google basically wants to make sure that the best information is at the top, it answers your question, it's useful, and it's not from 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 3 years ago. So they did give a couple of examples about things that sort of need to be freshened up. For example, Barry Schwartz looked up upcoming UK school holidays and was getting dates from 2017, 2018, and 2019. However, it's 2019 now, which means and the school year's over. So now you need 2019 to 2020 school dates. So now under this new information, you are able to see what the 2019 and 2020 school holidays are in an update of the featured snippet. They also want to make sure that they're providing more accurate information. So this can come up in events that might have only been shared the date and time of the event, but have yet to release the speakers or agenda. So, for example, Google has given the example of when does Stranger Things Season 3 start? Prior to this update, it would just mention that there's a teaser, it's been announced, and shows an article from December 10th, 2018. Under the new updated algorithm, it would show a snippet of what it is, the fact that a new teaser has been released, and the date of July 4th, 2019, which is when the show aired for the first time, premiered, whatever you want to call it. So that's a more accurate piece of information. And then they also want to make sure for certain recalls like food, cars, safety issues, etc., to make sure that they are up to date and as accurate as possible. Obviously, as we mentioned, the thing still is not perfect. That iPhone 7 result came from a more recent search, but we're hoping that it gets better with time. And apparently this algorithm update went live late February of this year. Before you ask, no, we are not covering the story that late. It was just finally confirmed that it has been happening. So, Josh, you want to give your thoughts on this, and then we can discuss a little bit of why this is so important.
I mean, whether you realize it or you don't, you use this feature all the time. It doesn't matter if you're Googling like hours to a restaurant, or you're searching just like something about like a celebrity or a sports star. It's always been there, whether you take the information seriously or not, depending on the update or where the algorithm was. It's super important, and it shows why making sure you keep your website optimized is super important to getting the opportunity of possibly having your structured snippet up on the Google searches.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a fantastic point, which is if you want to make sure that you get the chance to become in a featured snippet, we do not have an exact science of how Google chooses these, but we do know that they're choosing them from websites that typically have concrete answers to specific questions, right? So if you have a blog post and you're answering a question and perhaps, like 3 years pass and you realize, oh, that question's out of date, it might be worth either going back and refreshing the article or rewriting something completely new that answers that new question in a better way, because that increases your chance that you might become a featured snippet for whatever that question is, right? And as we've talked about before for featured snippets, it's all about making sure you're doing your SEO correctly and making sure that the content you are producing is quality, up-to-date, accurate, and most importantly, actually answers the question succinctly, or as succinctly as you can provide, basically. And I'm thinking about how Rand Fishkin's piece about how many Google searches actually result in clicks, and about 50% or more of them, a little bit more than 50%, I believe, had no clicks involved. That's exactly what we're talking about here.
It's because of this format.
Yeah, most people are not going to see the featured snippet and click in for more information unless they really needed it. If I'm looking Stranger Things Season 3 premiere date, I only need to know the date. I don't need to know much else, right? Just keep in mind. Go ahead.
But if you are looking at the Stranger Things 3 season air date, the structure snippet might be there, but most of the time, at least for me, you tend to look down at the website name to see if it's a website, one, or two, if it seems relevant to answer your question. So at least that gives you the recognition or the awareness that, if I search when does Stranger Things Season 3 start, I see the structured snippet, I realize it's coming from TheVerge.com, maybe in an hour or two or a day later, if I'm thinking about Stranger Things again, I might just go right on The Verge's website to learn more about it.
Or you might just click on it right there. Like that,
right.
And that's why we're mentioning how important SEO can be for trying to get one of these, and why one of these is so important, because it's not just your site that's getting the recognition of being in a featured snippet. Traffic might be being driven to your site because of that, because, for example, the Stranger Things thing. In that little excerpt that you'll see in the blog post, it talks about a teaser that got shown and things like that. So maybe somebody says, okay, I now know that this is coming out on July 4th, which was like about a month ago at this point, right? I might want to click in and see what the teaser is, right? So again, just make sure that your SEO is up to date, as great as it can be, and that your content is relevant, accurate, concise, and really answers the questions that you are trying to answer, or the issues that you are trying to resolve, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all for today's episode of The Buyer's Journey. Check us out on Comexis.com, YouTube, anywhere you can get your podcasts, and follow us on Twitter at @buyers_journey. Thanks for listening.